All right, guys, we have two bits of movie news today left to go. Bit of movie news number 3. This article comes from Deadline, and this is in all the major trades right now. As we've known for a while, Wonder Woman 1984 is in a very precarious situation. A very precarious situation, you guys. It is so much of an understatement to say that DC Films and Warner Brothers is in a very precarious situation. And their timetable to make a decision as to what to do with Wonder Woman 84 is it's a little past due. They should have known what they were going to do with Wonder Woman 84 a while ago. But as is always the case with COVID, every single day that we move forward in a COVID world, the impossible now becomes possible, and also the reverse. The possible now becomes impossible. The thinkable becomes unthinkable, and the unthinkable now becomes thinkable. And what do we mean by that? So Wonder Woman 84... As you should, Chris, as you should.
I'm trying to figure out what word math problem you just did.
Just figure one of them out and then just invert it. That's all it is. Don't spend your time with all of them.
Sounds good.
But
Sorry,
as is the case, so Wonder Woman 84 has been, the filmmakers and the studio has been very clear in saying this is going to be a Christmas Day release. Now, the Christmas Day release was its, I believe, 4th push or 3rd push. It's one of the two. This is not its first theatrical release date. It was supposed to come out months ago, and then they pushed it back to October, and then they pushed it out back again to Christmas Day, thinking, all right, Christmas Day, this is going to happen. It's going to be, this is what it's going to be. And they've been like sticking their heels in the sand and saying, we are committed to putting out Wonder Woman 84 in theaters on Christmas Day. But then last month, Cineworld in Europe, who is the parent company of Regal, announced we're shutting all of our theaters down around the world. Every single Regal theater being shut down until COVID is no longer a problem. AMC theaters, they're in a financial bind. They're over $5 billion in debt. It was a calculated risk. It was a smart risk that they took, but nobody counted on COVID becoming a thing, and now here we are. So AMC theaters, in every market that they're allowed to be open, they're open because they need the business. But then, a lot of other smaller, Cinemark, same thing. Like they need the business. So with an unpredictable amount of movie theaters to be open on Christmas Day, and not only that, to have cases of coronavirus, especially in the United States. I mean, I know they're going up around the world, but in the United States, we've had the highest numbers that we've ever had since it started. Period. The highest numbers of cases in the United States is currently right now, and it's on the rise. Which begs the question, with the more cases of COVID going up, are more businesses going to shut down? And if they do, and it's not just about businesses shutting down, it's about people leaving their homes. Are people finally going to start wising up a little bit and saying, okay, it is really bad right now, you guys, let's hold back. Let's stay indoors and do all of that. Are people going to do what they need to do? And if they do, and Wonder Woman 84 comes out in theaters, nobody's going to go see it. Nobody's going to go see it. So right now, Warner Brothers is in a very precarious situation because if they wanted to move, if they're going to keep the Christmas Day release date, they should have started advertising for this a month ago. Their window for advertising is shortening so quickly and so much that even if they do hold on to the December 25th release date, not a lot of people are going to know about it. Very little people are going to know about it. Chris, this is a complicated situation, to put it mildly. Let's just say if Walter Hamada, the president of DC Films, if he called you up tomorrow, if he calls you up today and says, Chris, I'm in a bind, I need some advice, what do we do? What kind of advice would you give Walter Hamada?
Abandoned ship. That's sort of like asking what would you do if the captain of the Titanic called you up 2 hours into the sinking, asking you your advice. It's I've never seen a company, and I'm a lifelong DC fan, but I quite literally have never seen something like how this company has imploded in upon itself. It's
Are you referring to
mind-boggling.
DC or are you
It
referring to Warner
truly is.
Brothers?
I'm referring to DC specifically. Warner Brothers has mismanaged DC films for many, many years. Um, and once again, it comes back to this like weird push and pull of being an industry leader and then trying to follow trends. DC films, their biggest issue is that they will essentially run something into the ground, i.e., the original run of Batman films, to a point where the property is no longer really a viable property. And then they gave it to Christopher Nolan, knowing that the property itself was, not very good. And they said, do with it what you will, because we obviously don't know what to do with it. And then he created the Dark Knight trilogy. And instead of taking that same idea of like, well, let's just take our sort of creative foot out of our creative mouth and give the properties to people who have something interesting to say with them, they just said, well, let's recreate the success of the Dark Knight trilogy with Superman. And we gave it to Scott Snyder. And on paper, all this stuff
Zack
seems like
Snyder.
it would
Zack
make
Snyder.
sense. But the execution...
Not
Scott
the
Snyder,
comic
sorry.
book writer.
Yeah, Zack Snyder. Not the comic book writer. He probably would have been better. Yeah, and they just constantly over and over again, they're chasing the dragon that is Marvel, and they're not running their own race. And if you look at anything, if you look at the presidential race, if you look at marketing trends, if you look at anything around the world, when a company or an individual stops running their own race and they start tracing the trends, the return becomes less and less each time because audiences get tired of it. They're exhausted by it. So what would I tell them to do? I would tell them to release the movie on HBO Max. I would tell them to kind of cool it with superhero films for a while, quite honestly, and to focus on the original properties themselves and to figure out how they're going to make these properties viable in the 21st century, as opposed to remembering what the quote glory days of the comic book industry were, or what the glory days of superhero films were, and try something new. For God's sake,
there's a few things that you said
new.
that I want to break down. First and foremost, your advice specifically about Wonder Woman 84 is release it on HBO Max. Wonder Woman 84, everybody knows, is a potential billion-dollar film. Personally, I don't think, even in a non-COVID world, I don't think it would reach $1 billion. Maybe very similar to what its predecessor did, was around 900 million, 800 million. I think that's kind of more the ballpark where it's going. That even still, that's a good amount of money that they have potential to make. You're not gonna get anywhere near as much money coming in if you were to release it on HBO Max. So that's point number one.
Maybe.
I mean, like, should they maybe just push it back? Do you think because one of the dates they're looking at is June 21st of next year. If they push it back to June 21st, they have a shot, a better shot.
Maybe. But I mean, you have to look at it this way. So far, Broadway has pushed back till, in theory, the beginning of June, though I'm hearing internally it's probably going to be pushed back again till opening in the fall. And some people are saying that Broadway won't even be back to 2022. So ultimately you have to ask yourself, you have look, there's a reason why I don't run a studio. I'm a moron, but
you and me both.
You have this like worldwide pandemic that no one can predict. No one really knows what's going to happen. Especially when and if we get a vaccine, which they keep saying we're going to get soon, and all the nitwits who are not going to take the vaccine. It's funny, earlier you said, will this be the moment where people, start taking responsibility, putting on their masks? And the answer is no. No, of course it's not going to be. No. The answer is no. That's not going to happen. People are selfish, and they're idiots.
In general. Yeah.
People in general.
Yeah.
Well, no, they literally did like experiments where they said that like one person is sort of smart, 2 or 3 people together are smarter than one person, 5 people are dumber than 3 people, and 1,000 people are dumber than 5 people. So it's like the experiment was like the more people you add, the lower the IQ of the mass becomes.
I believe, yeah. I'm not familiar with this concept, but I totally buy into it.
Individual. The experiment was, if I'm not mistaken, I think the experiment is that they basically got a group of people together to guess the weight of an elephant. And like one person, like I think they said like 3 people came the closest to guessing it. And the more people they added to the group past 3, the further away they got from the weight of the elephant. That's my memory of that experiment. I could be wrong. But yes, maybe they push it back. Right? Maybe they push it back. But you also have to understand that what they're also running against is not just the COVID clock. They've got this Snyder cut of Justice League. They've got Flashpoint film they're wanting to make. They've got Snyder is now claiming he's got all these extra movies he wants to make. And it's like, guy, calm down. You just got invited back to the dance. No one wants to see
this
you
brings up an interesting question, something that I wanted to ask you earlier. One of your previous points is that you said DC should just kind of stop making comic book films, stop making superhero films, and refocus for the moment until you kind of get your collective stuff together, right? I'm kind of thinking like, because after Walter Hamada took over the studio, he did a huge pivot. Like the Snyderverse was no longer a priority. They had to finish Justice League because they were already in production of it, and that was a huge hot mess. But then under Walter Hamada's umbrella, we have Aquaman, we got Shazam, we're getting the Suicide Squad, which looks really cool. We obviously have Wonder Woman 84. We have a number of future upcoming films in the we got Birds of Prey. Some people loved it, I loved it, some people hated it, and both are valid. But I feel like they are starting to pivot a little bit and create the Joker movie, the independent standalone Joker film, which I thought was genius. Is it smarter for them to keep on this idea of doing standalone films that don't necessarily tie into each other, just for the sake of creating a cinematic universe like what Marvel has done? Or should they just stop altogether? Like you took us down this journey. Let's finish it.
It's a good question. I will say that I think that the reason I put the caveat of maybe on is that I do think, Joker, with all of its flaws, was a very interesting film, and it was interesting to see someone take comic book material and deal with it that way in the language of film. I just don't think that DC needs to be Marvel, is what I'm ultimately trying to say. The idea of a cinematic universe, from a business model point of view, the reason you create it is so that then you can introduce lesser known properties who are bolstered by these really well-known properties. And Marvel Films was very good at that. I remember when the first Iron Man movie came out, you probably couldn't pay someone to read an Iron Man comic book.
Iron Man was a joke. Nobody enjoyed same thing with Captain America. Nobody liked those characters.
Yeah, they were not good properties on some level, and I'm using good in quotes. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting what's going to happen. It feels like that the Snyderverse Justice League world is going to end up being on HBO Max. That was the reason behind saying just put Wonder Woman 1984 on HBO Max. But I actually think when you talked about its release date, and I might be crazy, but I think it was originally supposed to be released, if not before Marvel's Captain Marvel, but just after. I think that was like it was originally supposed
You
to be
mean Wonder
released
Woman
around
84?
then. And then production, yeah, and then production pushed it back because they were having production issues. But that was my memory, is that it was supposed to be released before, like either around or before the Captain Marvel film, because they were, pleasantly surprised at how well the first Wonder Woman film did. I think if you can make a $1 billion Aquaman film, you can make a $1 billion Wonder Woman film. She's a far more interesting and dynamic character, and the Aquaman movie is just
It's Fast and the
bananas.
Furious. It's Fast and the Furious in the comic book universe. That's all it is.
Sure. I don't even know if I would call it.
Well, I said that it was directed by
but,
Justin Lin. Justin Lin doing the vast majority of the Fast and Furious movies. High budget, high octane, just silly, over the top. It's a ridiculous movie. It's fun, but it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was like watching a Looney Tunes cartoon with no plot.
Mm-hmm. Yep, there it is. Anyway, guys, so big question for you is the possibility of Wonder Woman 1984 staying on Christmas Day. I mean, Warner Brothers still hasn't made an official declaration. As the article points out, they are hoping to make a decision either by later today, or by Monday, most likely on Monday. Give them the weekend to try and a little bit more time to figure things out. What do you think they should do? Should they release it in theaters on Christmas? Should they delay it? Should they take the Chris Booth approach and just release it on HBO Max and, cut their losses and just be okay with the outcome? What do you think? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, click like. If you really like this video, click subscribe. And if you really, really like this video, click share. Because that is exactly what Michelangelo from the Ninja Turtles would want you to do. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.